Unanimous consent to vitiate the quorum call.
Without objection.
Thank you. Madam President, in the winter of 2010, American intelligence picked up the chatter of Afghan fighters in Pakistan. "Why are you back?" asked the Taliban leaders. "You're supposed to be fighting the Americans." "Yes," one of the fighters said, "but the Americans run towards the bullets." That story captures the American fighting spirit. If you ever find yourself questioning the greatness of this country, I encourage you to go talk to one of our young service members. I'm not talking about our older generals or war horses you often see on TV or around here in Capitol Hill. They won't renew your faith in America. They may even worry you. I'm talking about the young people. It's the door kickers, the tank drivers, the trigger pullers. Some of them are still just kids. I'm talking about the ones fresh out of college, ones hoping to pay for college by signing up for our great military. These young people are America's future. They are the Americans who fought so hard for us in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. And they are the ones so disappointed today of how we abandoned our mission in Afghanistan. Many of them did not remember the bright blue morning on September 11, 2001, when evil itself boarded 4 planes here on the East Coast and took the lives of 2,977 of our fellow Americans in just a matter of hours. They were just infants when President Bush demanded the Taliban hand over Osama bin Laden and shut down the terrorist training camps that littered Afghanistan. And when the Taliban refused, the United States and our most loyal ally, Great Britain, invaded Afghanistan. We were soon joined by 46 other nations. It was the first time Article 5 of NATO had been invoked, which states, "An attack on one is an attack on us all." America, in her righteous might, launched Operation Enduring Freedom and rained hell on the Taliban on October the 7th, 2001. We lost 12 brave American soldiers. But by December the 17th, we controlled a country few Americans could have found on the map months before. To call Afghanistan in 2001 Stone Age would be an insult to the rocks on the ground. We saw diseases only found in textbooks. 85% of the population was illiterate. No girls were allowed to attend school. Cell phones and computers were non-existent. We were not there to conquer. We didn't want to nation build. Our presence was needed because we wanted to keep Afghanistan from, yet again, becoming a training sanctuary for every would-be terrorist on earth. After all, the United States and our politicians of the 1990s looked the other way and failed to recognize Afghanistan as a threat. 30 years ago, Afghanistan was a training ground for some 20 to 30 terrorist groups. From Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda attacked the World Trade Center in 1993, 2 of our embassies in Africa, and a bombed USS Cole, a ship that was docked. The Clinton administration thought it could handle Al-Qaeda and their terrorist threat with over-the-horizon capabilities. September the 11th showed us that strategy doesn't work. But unfortunately, the Biden administration has forgotten those lessons of our past. During World War II, my father landed at Normandy and fought the Nazis in Europe. Hitler and Germany had the will to win, but thank God, America and our allies had more will. From the time my dad landed at Normandy to when he reached Berlin, he earned 5 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart. He was lucky. More than 400,000 of our Americans would never return home. Their blood, sweat, and tears saved Europe and the free world. Yet the work of the greatest generation didn't end on May the 8th, 1945. Americans stayed in Germany. We stayed to prosecute Nazi leadership. We stayed to build and rebuild their businesses and banks. If you drive a BMW today, it's because America worked to change the behavior of millions of Nazis who were still living in Germany after the war. And we are today still in Germany. It's the same success story in Japan and in South Korea. America's commitment to freedom and democracy didn't end when the shooting stopped. Today, Germany, Japan, and South Korea are some of our most vibrant economies and democracies across the world. Those nations are also among our closest allies. That, ladies and gentlemen, was our hope for Afghanistan. Every American wants to see war come to an end. War is ugly. War is brutal. War robs lives and destroys property. But freedom is certainly worth fighting for. Like World War II, our war in Afghanistan was completely justified. We took the fight to the enemy. Who started it? Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Our war in Afghanistan ended in 2014. Operation Enduring Freedom transitioned to a supporting role called Operation Resolute Support. That support trained the Afghan army, intelligence, and police forces to fend for themselves. It allowed a greater educational opportunities for young boys and girls all throughout Afghanistan. And as the Afghan security forces became increasingly capable, America withdrew her forces. By January 2021, we'd reduced our presence to just 2,500 from a high of 98,000 in 2011. President Trump also wanted to go to 0, but his military advisors said it would be unwise. So President Trump listened and maintained troop levels at 2,500. President Biden claims he doesn't remember his generals telling him to keep 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. Yet the president's principal military advisor, General Mark Milley, says he wanted to see 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. The top commander for the Middle East, Frank McKenzie, said he wanted to see 2,500 troops remain in Afghanistan. The top longest serving and most decorated commander in Afghanistan, General Scott Miller, wanted to see 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. That clearly told President Biden that to remain stable and protect the U.S. and our allies, Afghanistan needed small American presence of 2,500 troops. So when the president says he doesn't recall or he doesn't remember, is he telling the truth? Well, I don't know. But what I do know is that President Biden didn't listen to his military advisors. He didn't listen to troops on the ground. He ignored military advice and instead made a political decision. You can't run a war from Washington with an 8,000-mile screwdriver. If you do, you'll screw it up. 85 billion in equipment captured by the Taliban. Valuable air bases abandoned in the middle of the night. American citizens still left behind enemy lines to this day. Journalists and aid workers abandoned. Innocent Afghan partners and allies left to the will of our enemy. Chaos and disorder at Kabul airport. Desperate Afghans falling from our aircraft as people across our nation and the world watched in horror. 13 American soldiers dead. None of this should have ever happened. But now we must reckon with the worst foreign policy decision ever made. Our credibility has been eroded, and the respect from our allies has been destroyed. America must return to the peace through strength leadership that has guided us throughout history. It's made our enemies fear us, our allies value us, and what it means to have us as a partner on the world stage. Madam President, I notice the absence of a quorum.